Okay, so let's get started. Just another the second official edition of the Big Dog Little Dog podcast. We got at Big Dog Little Dog on Twitter, Akahi Trotsky, Tross Dog, Ala. Uh, then we got
Lacrosse.
Ala Tross, got Ala Tross, got Little Dog, and oh, Paulie. Lamar was bad, man. Anyway. Um, Yeah, so we're just back here. It's kind of a somber day for Seahawks fans. We got
Yeah, summer weekend.
I mean it's been a somber couple of days, I should say. The Seahawks obviously fell out in the first round of the playoffs, which not many were expecting with the way they performed this year, and um, some unlikely teams made it through, like the Ravens and whatnot. But um, yeah, there's a lot of news, and I think that's one good thing about being a fan of the Seahawks is that it's never boring. When things start getting comfortable, something always happens. And with that, um, I know there's a lot to unpack about the game. We'll kind of get into that. We'll get into the rest of the playoffs. So, Ollie, do you want to just tell me how you're feeling, how you felt about the loss, how you feel about Seahawks moving forward? Just give it all.
Well, about the loss, I mean, it's pretty clear. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. A lot of players talking about it. KJ Wright was talking about it. Russ was talking about it. This is the year, since 2014, since the year Malcolm Butler pick. Obviously, this is the year they felt most confident that they could go through from the beginning to the end. And at the end of the day, there's too many problems, too many issues on offense. Whether it's coaching, we'll talk about that later. Whether it's personnel, play calling, etc. There's a lot of problems to discuss, but there's also a lot of positives to take from the season. I mean, 12-4 is nothing to be disappointed at. At the end of the day, it was a division rival we lost to. Best defense in the league, one of the best defenses in the last 10 years. So I'm not too hurt about it, but it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks. Well, not much you can say elsewise.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, watching that game, I was pissed off. Like it was just hard to watch. They couldn't get anything going. You could tell the defense was just hanging on by a thread. I mean, Adams didn't. Adams was trying out there, but he was clearly broken. Bobby got hurt. You could tell Jerron Reed and Puna Ford were hurt because they were getting subbed out for a practice squad defensive tackle who's never played in the NFL before. And they were just they were fighting. The defense was fighting, and the offense just was not holding up their end of the bargain. And it's just really frustrating. And then you kind of see it. You kind of see the result of that frustration. I don't know if you want to call it a fall man, but Brian Schottenheimer, our offensive coordinator, is now gone. And I think when you look at the game against the Rams, it's kind of an encapsulation of the play of the Seahawks the last 8 weeks prior to the Rams, in that offensive struggles were prevalent. And once execution broke down to another level in terms of specifically the O-line play against the Rams and versus their dominant defensive front, it just all fell apart. The poor O-line play led to poor quarterback play, and then it's hard to recover from that. And so there's a lot to unpack. Who was at the biggest fault? Was it Russ? I mean, he looked broken. He looked bad. He had one nice throw, but he was missing throws. He was frantic at the pocket like he's been. Granted, the pressure was there, but he still just looked so uncomfortable. Um, and he had that pick, which, I mean, it's not his fault, but it's just so many mistakes that were just compounded and compounded. And yeah, we see today Schotty's gone, and it's hard to say who is the real problem.
That's something we're gonna have to discuss further. We're gonna have to keep watching. There's a lot of problems. It's like you said, it's a domino effect. The offensive line broke down, and you started there. You say the interior O line is one of the worst pass protecting O lines in the league, no question about it. I mean, Damian Lewis is a great run blocker, but he's had struggles all season, including our dominant stretch. He's had struggles all season. as a pass protector. Ethan Posich, this is his first year playing center for us, pretty much, even though he played in college. He's clearly not above average or greatest pass blocker. He probably was in and out of the lineup all season. Jordan Simmons played half the game last week. So he's never been a great pass blocker either. Struggled today, struggled last time, struggled against Aaron Donald's whole career. It's tough because you look at it, it is a tough matchup. So we don't know how much of it is their good defense rather than our offense, but that doesn't mean we still have to produce. And their defense played well enough to win. They had struggles, definitely. You can look at the Jamal Adams play, Cooper Kupp. You can look at 3rd and 9, miscommunication when there's 3 minutes left in the second quarter. But those are plays that are going to happen. That any great defense is going to happen. Even in the Rams game, or for the Rams, if you look at it from their perspective, the DK Metcalf touchdown is going to happen when you play as an aggressive team that tries to attack the ball. And they did that most of the game. That's a give and take. And the same with Russ. You give and take the good with the bad, and that's another example of DK throw. There's a lot to unpack offensively and defensively. And we're going to have a lot to address in the offseason, obviously, with a high amount of free agents. Cornerback, KJ Wright, that sign so far not looking too positive for the Seahawks side of it. And Chris Carson, obviously, the word coming out of the camp is there's a good chance he's not coming back. But we'll see. That's obviously early talk. There's a lot to address, a lot to see what's going on.
Yeah, so let's just jump right in. Let's talk about the Schottenheimer firing. I personally didn't think Schottenheimer. I don't think he was the main issue, but I also don't think he's the long-term solution in the sense that, we've had some pretty good offenses. In 2017, we were 9th in EPA. In 2018, we were 13th in EPA. In 2019, we were 14th in EPA. And you don't always say, oh, we have a great quarterback. It should be at that level or better. But, I mean, it takes all parts, and it takes coaching. And I think what we've seen this year is him definitely, Schotty definitely revolutionizing and modernizing the offense to be more pass heavy and not be so stagnant and run heavy. And we saw that work. We saw that work really well for the first 5 or 6 weeks, and that just kind of fell apart. And for a variety of reasons too. Like Schotty clearly could have made some better adjustments. In-game adjustments were one of his weaknesses, and maybe worked with Russ better to unpack those beaters for the coverages he was seeing, which clearly didn't happen, or there's some disconnect there. And I think when you talk about changing something up, I don't think Pete Carroll's going anywhere, and it's just really just not a reality. And I don't think Russ is going anywhere. Although, I mean, maybe it's time to start having some conversations. Would you trade Russ for Herbert? I don't know. Would you trade Russ for Deshaun Watson? Oh, it sounds like you might be on the block. I don't know. Probably not, right? Probably not. But now you're like, a little worrisome that when we try to get him to do these pocket passing, we try to put him in the pocket against complex coverages that are playing for the pass. He has not shown to be that great this year. And it's been a long stretch. You could say small sample size, but it's still been about 8 to 10 weeks. So I think the one variable that you can change is Schotty moving. And that's what they did. And it could go one of two ways, right? They could hire someone who comes in, continues this modernization approach, and really helps Russ grow as a pocket passer while also utilizing his strengths and outside of the pocket play. But it could go the other way where Pete Carroll hires Anthony Lynn from the Chargers, and they just want to run the ball, establish the run all game, and then we're kind of back to that, good. It was decent offense. It just wasn't efficient, and it felt conservative and stagnant. So that's two options we got to think about in terms of Schotty being gone. But I will say Schotty was a good coach, and I respect what he did here. What about you?
So, realisticness of Russ being traded and Pete Carroll. I think before we question Russ, I think we question Pete, in my opinion. I mean, you look at him as a motivator, he's probably one of the best in the league. He makes players play better and above their level, but as a play caller, as a defensive mind, he's probably near the bottom. I mean, he's never shown the ability to make, changes in game. He sometimes takes over play calls. He's not really a brilliant mind on both sides of the ball. So we're scheme wise, we were heavily relying on Brian Schottenheimer this year, and he's been basically had all the offense. So obviously you can put the blame on him. But I think maybe we get a head coach in who's got versatility, who's got game knowledge, and that's where it comes down to me. You look at Pete before Russ; it wasn't great. You can look at Russ his whole career, never having a losing season. This year, 90.3 PFF grade, which is top 5. And you got to question, like, Russ
It's
is
actually not
playing.
top 5 anymore, but continue.
Okay.
He got surpassed by Allen, Watson, and Brady came back at the end. So it was Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen, Watson, Brady ahead of him.
Okay. Top 2. And top 3 majority of the season. Honestly, talk about the last 8 weeks.
Yep.
And then you look at that and you say, Russ consistently over his career has been a top quarterback. I don't see how we let go of him. And Deshaun Watson, yeah, it's nice to dream, but I'd still take Russ at this moment over Deshaun, especially in our scheme. I think
Yeah.
the problem is offensive line for me. It has been. How can Russ be a consistent pocket passer without a consistent pocket? And you saw that. I know what you're saying when you say he was frantic. He was definitely frantic in the pocket, left too early. But there were plays where Aaron Donald was through in a second. Leonard Floyd was around the edge in a second. So he's prepared to move. His first read sometimes was working where he can go in the pocket, manipulating it. And he looked to get outside, which obviously the Rams played against. Leonard Floyd was mostly running quarterback contain on the outside. Both edges were, preventing him from going inside. And he hasn't been great stepping up always, unless there's massive holes where he just runs through. And there wasn't because the interior pressure is so good from the Rams. So they did a great job scheming against him. But, at first you got to think we got to win those matchups up front faster, or at least give him more time. And I think that's where the problem really lies, rather than in Pete Carroll or Russ. I think it's bettering the offensive line. I think it has been for 5 years. I think we still haven't truly addressed that.
Yeah. I think you said a lot there, but I will say, yeah, we definitely need to improve the O-line. I think it has improved, though, and I think it was definitely one of the best it's been. And we still, even in those, the Rams game was obviously played bad, but in the previous games, they were not playing terrible. Like, I should say the previous 8 weeks, and the offense still did not look great. But I think one thing we need to realize with Pete and Russ is that maybe we're not seeing the full story. Maybe Pete knows Russ so well that he knows that these these high volume passing offenses might not be what Russ can handle. And really, our only kind of taste in that realm is this year. And it looked great for 5 weeks, and it looked bad for 8 weeks. There were flashes, but I mean, you kind of see where I'm coming from, right? Where we don't really know. We don't really know. Maybe Schotty's like, this guy, he gets frustrated because he's calling these plays, and there's guys open to beat these coverages, but Russ isn't hitting him. And then Pete's like, yeah, I know. I've known this for 6 years that he's not super developed enough to make this this a strength of his. So we need to bring in someone who can cater more to these abilities. But that's just a theory, right? We don't know that. But in terms of the O-line play, I think that's something we definitely need to improve. Although I think you can still have good pocket presence with a not great O-line and be able to pass in the pocket. I'm thinking of Matt Ryan, who is immobile with bad O-line, and they still produce with a high volume passing offense. Obviously, this year they struggled, but
This is the one. This year has been worse, but most years in the past, Matt Ryan's had better O-lines than Russ.
Yeah, but better than this year's O-line compared to what I feel like Matt Ryan hasn't had a good line in like 3 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. And hasn't been very productive. They've been pretty bad.
Yeah, maybe so, but I mean, he hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been.
He's definitely been worse than
elite.
Russ. That's pretty obvious to say.
Yeah, but it's Russ's out of structure versus Russ's.
Yeah, true. Definitely. I see what
pocket passing.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, so the O-line is definitely something we need to address. So would you think keeping Schotty and simply just spending on the O-line, maybe restructuring Dunlap, Reed, and KJ, maybe not even signing KJ and just buying like a nice free agent guard and maybe drafting a center or something like that? You think that would have been a better alternative and just run it back with Schotty? You think that would have solved our
Well,
problems?
Shoddy has shown more growth in this last year than he did in the first 3 years because it's most of the same thing. So we don't know where he's going to go with that. But I think the reason Shoddy got fired was a lot of the Russ talked about in the press conference after the game. He was talking about how he wanted to run more up tempo stuff, and Shoddy wasn't doing that. So there was clearly a disconnect there to some extent. I know they talk about how they're so close, but maybe I think Shoddy. I'm not mad with the Shoddy firing. I don't know if it was. It's like you said. It's not the solution to our problems, nor is it the problem that we have. It's not the singular problem. But like you said, it's not long term. It was never going to be long term. Most likely, the way we brought him in, the reason we brought him in. So we didn't bring him in to obviously. I don't think Pete brought him in to run that kind of offense, which is maybe why he got fired too. Pete wants to run the ball. He's always wanted to run the ball. He brought Schotty in because he was a guy that was an old style offense and ran the ball a lot. And he changed this year because he wants to develop as a coordinator, I imagine.
Yeah.
And also maybe that was our ability as a strength. And I think Schotty will definitely get a job somewhere else, whether it's as an OC or a head coach. Probably not a head coach at this point. And he's definitely talented offensive coordinator, but you gotta understand fit. And I think where he was going maybe wouldn't have been the best. Like you said, take advantage of Russell's strength rather than try to change Russ.
Yeah, so let's kind of transition on. I think the best fit with the Seahawks is, I mean, obviously you want to get that perfect QB pairing, QB OC or QB head coach pairing, but I think that's hard to find. So I think there's two questions we need to ask. What are the good OCs available? But also, what are the OCs available that Pete would actually hire? And that's a tough question because when you look at Brian Schottenheimer, he basically came out of nowhere, right? Like he wasn't really talked about much. No one else was really interested in him, and then suddenly we picked up this guy whose uh, his biggest resume builder was that he was the head offensive coordinator of the Jets with Mark Sanchez. Um, and so they were decent, but they played on the backs of their defense. So maybe that's what Pete saw in him. So I guess I'm asking you, out of the candidates out there, there's been some names like the guys in SF that would be a good fit out of the Shanahan system. The guys in LA. We got both the offensive coordinator and the QB coach. The QB coach, I believe, is Pat something. He worked with Herbert this year. He's also a coach in the XFL. So those are two names there, and the OC obviously. So who would you hire, and who do you think Pete would hire?
Uh, I hear a lot of Seahawks buzz about trying to get Eric Bieniemy. It's impossible.
Yeah,
And
that's a joke. Like people can say what they want. Eric Bieniemy is not going to leave Andy Reid to come to Pete Carroll. Maybe if Pete Carroll says, "Hey, I promise you will have the head coaching job after I leave," barring anything radical. But still, I don't think so. And also, I do not buy into these Eric Bieniemy hype, man. He had some serious issues at Colorado. He is the OC under Andy Reid, but we can see Andy Reid's calling all the plays. Basically, what you're hoping is when you hire Eric Bieniemy is that he's learned so much from Andy Reid um, that he can be able to adapt and coach like Andy Reid because the strength of Andy Reid is adapting to his players. So I don't know if that's necessarily a skill you can master, rather a skill that you naturally have and the ability to work with the players you have and maximize those players. But sorry, I kind of got off on a little tangent there.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. A name that I want to throw out there, I think is maybe you could see someone like I don't know Doug Peterson come in.
Dougie
Who should be,
P.
yeah, I think it would be an interesting signing. created the RPO essentially. That's what is his real strength in Philadelphia in that Super Bowl season. And he got Carson Wentz. I mean, you can't argue with the results of Carson Wentz in the first season with Doug Peterson. And
A lot of people will say that was Frank Reich, though.
Yeah, definitely Frank Reich, offensive coordinator, now Indianapolis head coach, if you were unfamiliar. He was under as the OC for the Eagles. That's definitely true. Doug Peterson, another coaching tree member of Andy Reid, as you just explained. And Andy Reid's got a lot of success with this coaching tree. Irrelevant, but going back to your point. I think Doug Peterson would be an interesting and good hire, in my opinion. Might as well be experimental. Do I think Pete would hire him? No. I think.
Yeah, I don't think Doug would take the job either.
Yeah, that's true. He could easily wait for possibly a head coaching job. It wouldn't be surprising me if he could get one. Some team that's desperate or
an OC for a new head coach at one of those positions.
Yeah, true. He could go somewhere where he's already got connections to, which could be like if the enemy moves out, he could OC for the Chiefs. You could see that too.
True.
Well, realistically, you could probably see Steichen out of LA. A guy who wants to run the ball a lot. I disagree with it. I think we stepped in the right direction this year. It's hard to say 12-4. We didn't succeed, and the defense, as well it played in the last 8 weeks to get us those wins, it played terribly in the first 10. So
yeah, one name I'm hearing getting dropped around a lot. Sorry to cut you off. What about Freddy Kitchens, dude? What do you think about Freddy Kitchens?
I think that would be definitely a fun one. I don't know how successful it would be. It seems like an hire again. But like you said, Brian Schottenheimer came out of nowhere. He was kind of a no-name when we signed him at the time. So it's whatever Pete wants, really. He's got a lot of control over that organization when it comes to decision-making. And Schneider, too, obviously. We'll talk about that, I imagine. Or we can just talk about it right now. Schneider is extended until 2027 as of yesterday.
Yeah, I think that was good news. What do you think?
I think it's definitely good news. I think Schotty was a huge part in the Seahawks renaissance after the struggles in the late 2000s. Yeah, Schneider. So he's had struggles drafting in the top picks, but you can't argue with his. What you like to point out a lot is he's been one of the best, probably the best in the league at UDFAs. Looking at some of our UDFAs over the years, Kuna Ford is a key UDFA we have right now. Brian Monet next to him, another great player at UDFA. Richard Sherman, obviously. No, not Richard Sherman. Doug Baldwin. Most famous. So he's had success with that.
Yeah, they called him pedestrian, man. They disrespected Doug Baldwin. I miss Doug.
He was great. He was the guy you could always throw to. Definitely those kind of cover two kind of situations underneath.
Yeah.
And you can play too. I mean, DK Metcalf, he's a beast, but getting separation on early routes against press coverage is not a strength that he's had. He's been pretty good. Well, over the top help kind of ruins him. He did get free in that one against Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, offensive line didn't hold up. Russ tried to make the throw. That throw really early. It was a tough throw. Can't hate him on that one. But as a throw that in there earlier this season, he probably would have made. I don't know.
No doubt.
Fatigue from us was definitely a key part. But going back to the OC, I don't know who's going to hire. Freddy Kitchens is interesting, but I think we'll probably go for a guy with more running style.
Yeah. So to answer those two questions, who would I hire? I like to hire someone with proven pedigree of having a good offense. So I like Doug Peterson. I mean, they're all unrealistic, right? Like all the guys you want, and they're not going to come. But I guess the one guy, which I kind of mentioned earlier, is the passing coordinator, Mike LaFleur. I think he's the passing game coordinator, Mike LaFleur, little brother of Matt LaFleur. Passing game coordinator at the 49ers. First of all, I love that because we'd steal him from the 49ers. Second of all, it kind of revitalized some youth in the coaching staff, bring a new perspective in terms of Ken Norton looks pretty old. Pete looks pretty old.
He's pretty young. I mean, 47 he's not young, but he's not old.
Who?
He wasn't old. Schotty wasn't that old. I mean,
Yeah, he
compared to
wasn't that old. You're right, but you're right.
he had an older style because his dad was obviously a coach back in
Yeah,
the day.
I think we do have some options, definitely. I
I
I
love.
would like to bring him in. I think that's someone realistic we could bring in, but I'm not sure.
I think that idea would complement our defense well.
Yeah,
You know, they
someone
run
from
a lot
the Shanahan tree.
outside. Yeah, Shanahan tree. Sean McVay. They run a lot of run heavy offense while opening up play action, which is definitely something Russ can cook off, no question.
Yep.
Let Russ in the play action for sure would be nice. I mean, look at Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers skyrocketed. Imagine what. Well, we're seeing it right now. Aaron Rodgers is running in a similar offense over there, or at least it was designed at first. It was a play action offense last season. You see how it's developed in the second year. And Aaron Rodgers is definitely a better pocket maneuver and inside the pocket accuracy guy than Russ is, especially on short to medium throws. But you can argue that Russ is more accurate downfield, which makes us more vertical in the passing game. It can allow us to do other. There's a lot of options with Russ.
Yeah, and
I
I
think,
think
yeah,
I think
so,
someone from the Shanahan tree just kind of fits both the philosophical. Obviously they like to run. Um, Actually, I was thinking about this too, though. The Shanahan tree has a big focus. They run like an outside zone scheme, so they want their linemen moving in
to move
space. They're more athletic, but
do not have.
they're not as big, right? And that's the opposite of what Pete wants, and it's the opposite of kind of what we've been building in terms of we just drafted Damian Lewis. That guy's not. I mean, he could probably run outside zone pretty well, just 'cause he's so good. But I mean, that's not
Yeah,
kind of the prototype you draft, and
no,
um,
Shell Dwayne or not, or Dwayne is just such an athletic
yeah.
freak. Dwayne,
But like guys like Jordan Simmons, he's like just a big mauler. I mean, he's not very
obviously,
quick. So we haven't really been building our roster for that. You also you utilize the fullback position, which we haven't really been using. Utilize, well, I guess Will Disley's a blocking tight end, but Jacob Hollister is not. So we have to make some serious roster adjustments to kind of run that outside zone offense, off play action. But I do think that kind of fits the philosophy. So, and just to kind of wrap up this conversation about Schotty, and the OC position, who would Pete hire? I don't have any clue who Pete would hire. It's probably going to be someone that we don't expect. It's definitely not going to be someone. Um, it's kind of like our first round draft picks. Like everyone's mocking these coaches to these players to Seattle, and there's just no shot we take any of them. We're going to take some guys who probably are
that
second or
you
third round prospects, and that's who we're going to slot in at. Exactly. We're going to take the Rashad Penny of coaches, probably.
or the LJ Collier who I was
Or the
referring to.
LJ Collier of coaches. And, it's hard to say if it's going to be good or whatnot. And you will kind of talk about more in the off season. There's one more point I want to wrap up with in terms of the OC position. I think it's that we need to consider, the one thing I was concerned about with firing Schotty is that the reinstitution of a new offensive scheme takes time and it takes practice and it does not come right away. Evidence the Packers last year, that offense was not super fluid and they could not get things going against different defenses. And now they look at them now, they're rolling. And you can see that probably with a lot of teams that when a new offensive system is in place, the offense is going to struggle. And I imagine that unless we go down to something very vanilla, which won't look good anyway, we're probably going to struggle for a bit finding our way, which is going to be frustrating. And I can already see the hot take saying Seahawks hired Mike LaFleur and they suck. But it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to tell. And hopefully, with the roster we have now, I think next year we have potential to go to the Super Bowl. Hopefully, we can get our offense together by the time the playoffs come around, where everything's clicking. But you never know because the system is not going to be ironed out, right? You hope it is, but you never know.
Also, our schedule's going to be way tougher than it is this year. Next year.
Yeah, I think it's definitely tougher. I don't think it's terrible though. I don't think it's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think the Saints are going to be as good.
NFC East this season, which is
That's true. But we play. I mean, we play the number one seed from the NFC East, which is Washington, which not too scary. Could be worse. and we play the Saints.
Yeah, you look at our division is going to get stronger next year, most likely.
Definitely.
We'll see what happens with the quarterback, but I think the Niners are guaranteed a bounce back season.
Yeah.
I don't see the Cardinals going anywhere. They're so young, and the Rams are going to be good as long as they have Sean McVay, probably, or a team that will beat us at least.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, we can talk more about the offseason, the needs, O-line, cornerback, wide receiver, and stuff like that. But we won't dive into that now. I guess, is there anything else you want to say on the Schotty and just post-game reactions rather than off-season predictions before we move on?
Not much to say. I think we covered a lot of it. Russ, of course, big part to cover. We could have got more in depth on Russ, and I think.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about that quickly?
No, I think we can talk about it later.
Okay.
Russ is not going to go anywhere anytime soon, so we can take the conversation for later. But I'd like to open up to the chat right now. If that's got any questions about the Seahawks future, anything Seahawks related, we can talk to you now. We'll have some playoff questions later.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. So we finally secured our very first sponsor, and that is American U.S. Oil, owned by the PAR Corporation. Shout out PAR. Shout out fossil fuel. Shout out energy production. And we would like to do a giveaway in one of our future podcasts. So just keep generating the hype. We will eventually do about $100 Costco gas giveaway if you guys are interested in the future. Shout out PAR. We want to take our first question from our sponsor, AJ Trotsky, who actually set up this sponsorship with PAR. He says, "What about Jay Gruden for offensive coordinating position?"
I'll answer that. So Jay Gruden obviously worked last year with the Jaguars. Didn't have much success. Offense looked decent in the first few weeks. They worked off play action. Obviously, James Robinson had a great year under Jay Gruden, so you could see that. And James Robinson is not like we have a James Robinson and Chris Carson or Carlos Hyde. If it's not Chris, it's probably going to be Carlos. So there's definitely potential there. What Minshew is and might actually be better than Russ is what managing a bad pocket and being more accurate and more decisive and taking checkdowns, which is what a lot of that Jay Gruden offense is. It's about knowing when you, which is what we said Russ struggles at. It's a lot of checkdowns, a lot of concept reading rather than outside the pocket work. So it could definitely work. I like the idea there, but I don't see why Jay Gruden. It doesn't seem like a likely hire for me. I don't know.
Is he? Did he get let go with the rest of the staff?
I think he's still on the Jaguars. I think he was
But he might not stay though if the new head coach comes in, right?
An offensive guy definitely could get moved on.
Yeah, but I don't know how realistic that hire is. So other questions we said, what about DK's drop problem? There was once this receiver who just kept dropping everything, and all the coaches are like, man, this guy's dropping everything, and
even in the league right now.
Blah blah blah, and he's like he went to his old college coach. He's like, why can't I catch anything, man? Like I'm struggling in the league. He went to his college coach. He just said, you know how to catch, man. Just relax. You know how to catch. That man turned out to be Jerry Rice. So, he's still learning, man. He's still learning. He's gonna be good.
I actually thought you were talking about Devonta Adams, who obviously had a huge drop problem in his first year. He did, and he was.
It was his second year. His first year he wasn't very relevant. His second year he was terrible.
It was first year like playing as a starter after injuries. Yeah. And he definitely struggled, and he lost faith. But after actually they brought in Brent Hundley, I think he started catching the balls, and now look at him. So, It is. People don't realize DK is only like 22 right now, 23.
Yeah.
So he's so young, and he's breaking records. Imagine later in his career. I'm not worried about DK. I think we got more prevalent problems on offense.
Okay, so what? Okay, we'll ask one more quick one. I'll let you take this one. How integral is David Moore?
Not integral at all. I think we want to bring back. Pete talked about it. I think in his press conference, some of the guys he wants to bring back. He asked Phillip to come back, and if Phillip's going to come back, he's going to play, in my opinion. Freddie Swain got an insane amount of snaps recently, and he played over David a lot in the Rams game. He got a lot of snaps. I think he might have been. I don't know the numbers. I can check that, but he was definitely one of his higher snap counts of the season. I will say he made one of the worst plays. The block, the wide receiver screen. I think you could blame completely on him.
On Swain?
Yeah, he blew him up.
Oh, I don't know about that. But
it was obviously a great play.
I thought it was DK. He didn't come to the ball enough, so
that's true too.
It made it nearly impossible for him to block.
For Freddie Swain to redirect him, I can understand both sides of it, but I still think Freddie Swain let him run through him, which is not something you gotta at least check the blocker to a certain extent, and I think he didn't do that successfully. But he obviously had at the end of the game had a nice bright spot. He had that Washington touchdown earlier in the year, couldn't get his feet down, made a great spectacular catch, actually underratedly great catch from Freddie Swain. Good throw too from Russ at the sideline. It was garbage time. You remember it, obviously. It was a great catch. They reviewed it. So Freddie Swain seems like a guy that we want to be part of our offense, and I think we might have done that knowing that David Moore might not be coming back, because there's a good chance that David Moore gets better offers for other teams because he's had a relatively good year face stat wise, and he's been pretty decent as a third receiver. But I think we got better options, and I think we got more dynamic players that could help our scheme. So I think David Moore.
So we'll both answer this next question by TGSTM87. Shout out. Let's just keep it pretty brief. Who's the most important free agent to bring back next year? I guess I'll start. I mean, so restricted free agent, if that counts, definitely Poona Ford. I think we need to bring him back, no doubt. Unrestricted free agent, I think we got guys like Posich, Carson, Shaq Griffin, Quentin Dunbar. Who else?
KJ Wright.
KJ Wright. Yeah. So, honestly, my take is I think we need to bring back Quentin Dunbar on a cheap deal. And I think that bringing back KJ, I'd love to do, but I think he might cost a little bit too much. And I think we need to invest more in the O-line. And I think that's one place we can save a little money. Although I'm not against KJ. I'd probably rank him second. But I think Quentin Dunbar, cheap deal, shore up the cornerback depth. And what do you think?
So I like the restricted idea. I agree with you. I think Poona Ford is absolutely integral. If you talk about a guy that's integral to our defense in the future and now. So Poona Ford, for my list, would be number one. Restricted, though, so most likely we are going to bring him back.
Yeah.
But look at the guys that are going to hit the market, and that's probably going to be most likely hit the market. It's going to be Shaq. It's going to be Quinn. And mainly the guys that are going to be actually get offers are going to be Shaq, Quinn, or not necessarily Quinn. Quinn could get no offers initially. But Shaq, KJ, and Chris could definitely get offers, bigger offers on better teams maybe. Not better teams, but better offers, better money, where they can play more. And Shaq, all those guys are key parts. I think Chris, as much as I love Chris, and he might be, one of the top 10 most talented running backs in the league, he's not integral. He's not.
Who's your main one?
So I think my choice would be KJ. I think KJ had a huge year. I think I see what you're saying when it comes to value. I'm just thinking about most important player to bring back, best player to bring back that's hitting unrestricted free agency, value to our team rather than contract situation. He said if the money's right he'll come back, but that's
I'm worried about the money. He might have priced himself out of playing in Seattle.
Yeah. He looks like he's going to want double digits, even an upgrade off his last contract, which is already hefty.
Yeah.
And he played like a top 10 linebacker this year, at least coverage guy. So I want to bring him back if the money's right. I think he's the most important guy to bring back without money included. Because you talked about money, putting up our cheap would be nice.
Yeah, I think we got to talk about money. But okay, so let's 2 more questions we'll talk about. We got three more questions. We'll answer these questions pretty quick. Thoughts of the Rams Green Bay matchup? Just give me 2 sentences.
I think the Green Bay is going to win just because I don't think the Packers will be able to move the ball, or the Rams will be able to move the ball.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in our playoff preview maybe later
Yeah,
this week.
later this week,
But I think the game will be close. Actually, I think the spread is at
yeah.
6.5 right now. I would take the Rams plus 6.5. What is the cap space looking like after making Jamal the highest paid safety in the league in the future? Yeah, there's really no concern with making Jamal the highest paid safety in the league. After, I think, 2022, the cap supposed to jump up, and we have very little cap responsibilities. John Snyder manages his money very well. There will be plenty of money to pay Jamal what he needs to be the best
And
safety in the league.
DK will be the highest paid receiver in the league or close to it.
Yeah, it looks like just from over the cap projections, the cap could be around 220 in 2022, and right now I think we have like 60 mil tied up. So we have 160 mil in cap space. There's plenty of space. Uh, who do the Giants need? Draft predictions for the Giants. The Giants need to figure out who's playing quarterback for them. I think that's the biggest question. Their offense was second to the Jets this year. I believe they were terrible. Um, and I'm worried. I'm worried about the Giants falling into a trap of mediocrity with Daniel Jones, and yeah, they need to do something there. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think their defense has improved a lot over Joe Judge. I think you'll see probably a steady increase even from last season. I think Joe Judge is a great coach. I think Jason Garrett in his first year has been pretty good. I mean, Darius Slayton was getting open downfield. They got weapons. Darius Slayton definitely has a lot of talent. So wide receiver is not a huge problem. We'll see if Golden Tate comes back. Most likely he won't. So maybe they'll need a draft wide receiver depth there. But I think Kai's right. I think quarterback probably. Daniel Jones has been terrible, his whole career.
Yeah, they got to figure that out. They probably need a wide receiver too.
Wide receiver or O line as well. They definitely
wide receiver draft. Yeah, O line draft, and
we'll see how the production rises. Obviously, because Saquon is going to be a big part of that offense.
Yeah.
So,
but Daniel Jones is still a big question mark. All right, let's hop into just some playoff. The rest of the playoff games. Let's talk about what we kind of predicted and what actually happened. So let's go through the first game. Colts at Bills. Very, very close game. I almost picked that upset. I almost called. I said in this stream that Josh Allen is going to make a mistake late. That's going to cost them the game. And he almost made that mistake. He tried to do too much. The guy came off the edge. He broke one guy off for the sack, and then he tried to run around again. He gets sacked by the other guy, dropped the ball, and if what's his name? The right tackle didn't recover that, I think the Bills would have lost. I think the Bills would have lost. And that was like 4 minutes left in the game. That was almost a critical mistake. And flashbacks of last year's Josh Allen. You ended up being right. All of the Bills were too much for the Colts. I thought Philip Rivers played a good game, but anything you want to say on that game?
I want to point out, the Bills looking. They looked bad defensively. I mean, the Colts didn't have a turnover and they had 450 yards. That's just not going to work. If they can't force turnover out of Lamar, you could easily see them just sitting on the ball all game long, controlling.
Yeah, I think that Bills defense has been a little overrated the last couple of weeks, but
yeah, it was really bad. I think against the Colts. I think the Colts' lack of dynamic offense really cost them in the red zone. They had the 4th and goal. A lot of Rodrigo, tough game for the Lego man, beast. Shout out to Rodrigo Blankenship. Had a rough one though. So the Bills definitely. Josh Allen. It's a one man show on offense. Stephon Diggs is a beast too. Gabriel Davis looking good. Cole Beasley. It's not a one man show. Just one dimensional attack. They're not running the ball very well. It's just Josh Allen being dynamic and Brian Dable, delays up defenses. And I don't know if they can rely on that against the Ravens game, which we'll talk about later. So, yeah. All the thoughts I have.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's move on. Tampa Bay, Washington football team. I remember you saying this was going to be a complete blowout, man. You said 14-3 Tampa Bay. Little did you know that Taylor Heineke.
Oh, 14-3 football team, actually, I think I had.
Really? Is
I had
that what you said?
points. Yeah. I thought they
Oh,
were.
dang. Well, you were wrong either way. Um,
Yeah.
but Taylor Heineke played out of his mind, man. That guy was crazy. And, um, Washington looks like they have a team on the rise. They still need a long-term answer quarterback, but Tampa Bay looks pretty scary too. That defense for Washington has been playing off the charts, and um,
They diced them up.
they dice them up. Yeah, we'll get to the Browns. We'll get to the Browns. We know we got a lot of bandwagon Browns fans nowadays. A lot of people who just jump around thinking that they can like whoever they want, and we call those guys fair weather fans. We call those guys, not loyal. Not loyal. Anyway, that was just my little rant. Let's move on. What did you think about that game?
Yeah, Taylor Heineke. It was definitely a funner game than you expect to go into games and be boring, defensive heavy. But Taylor Heineke kind of made it fun, which is nice for the questionable Sunday night choice or Saturday night choice for the primetime slot for sure. But they did pretty well. Bruce Arians, Tom Brady are connecting now. Scary stuff, to be honest, especially for next year.
Scary stuff, man.
Yeah, their receiving core is unbelievably. They made that defense look pedestrian, which is scary. Definitely scary.
Brady is not washed, man. It's tough to say. Brady's not
never
washed.
Never was.
Oh, Brady was definitely washed. He should have lost Super Bowl 20. He should have lost Super Bowl 48, but he got bailed out by Malcolm Butler.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, he was washed until then, until yesterday or 2 days ago. Okay, let's talk about Baltimore at Tennessee. So I predicted that Lamar would choke, and he choked in that first half. In that first quarter, that interception, that was atrocious. That looked like Jaden Delora against the USC Trojans, man. It was bad, and I was like, oh my god. Lamar Jackson, same old guy. He shows up, throws a pick. Titans jump out to a 10-0 lead. But then they ended up coming back and winning. Lamar had some nice runs. I'll give him that. He doesn't do it the same way as other quarterbacks, but he does get it done relatively. He's still 1-2 in playoff games. But it's also I also want to say that he did get bailed out. Ryan Tannehill missed a touchdown to AJ Brown on that pick that he threw, and on that pick that he threw, it looked like Marcus Peters bumped my guy to slip, fell right into his arms. Game over.
Supposed to be in the game. A lot of things went into that play.
Yeah, and to talk about how impressive it was holding Derrick Henry to 40 yards and 2.2 yards per carry. I mean, it is what it is, right? They obviously game plan to stop Derrick Henry, and it worked out well. Ravens' defense is not bad, definitely no slouch, but yeah, I guess the Ravens won. I don't know how far they're gonna go, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the Bills-Ravens game. I think that'll be a good game, depending on how it goes. But going back to the last game, I think Titans have a lot to address. Like they got Tannehill and Derrick Henry on big contracts. We'll see what that means about Corey Davis. Probably, he's going to be a free agent this year. Good chance he's out the door. They were just one-dimensional. They too reliant on Derrick Henry. They're not gonna go anywhere. Playoffs wise, because you come against elite defenses, elite coordinators that know how to stop a run game, and as good as Derrick Henry is, the fronts that the Ravens were showing and the speed at linebacker, there's just no way he's gonna be successful in the run game that day. Yeah. No matter how many he broke, there was just guys coming in. So the Titans have a lot to address. Defensively, obviously they've had a big struggle. Couldn't stop Lamar running the ball, who was so dynamic. I mean, Lamar Jackson is just one athlete, Probably would have ran the fastest 40 in my opinion in history of the 40-yard dash. He just looks so fast. And I think as long as Lamar Jackson's playing on offense, they're going to have a chance to control the ball. I think that's all you need. So I look forward to the Ravens against the Bills. I think the Ravens could easily, we'll talk about it later.
I think when you have Lamar on offense, there's a chance to control the ball and also a chance to throw an ugly interception. But Let's move on to Chicago at New Orleans. This game was definitely the most boring game out of all the games.
Yeah,
Chicago, they had a chance early on. Jay Wims dropped that touchdown, which was
yeah.
ugly, and then yeah, things just fell apart. New Orleans didn't even look that great, but Chicago
God,
just looked like they did
offense.
not belong. Yeah,
I mean, Drew Brees struggled to move the ball the whole game. Yeah, couldn't get the run game going. The Bears put up a great performance defensively, though. They were getting pressure on good tackles and
yeah.
good alignment. But
I
I don't
think
know if that is going to happen even against. I think the Bears have a better defense than the Bucks, so it might be easier.
yeah, it
But they're
makes me
looking.
think that the Seahawks could have beaten New Orleans just the way they played, but who knows? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, you can be a salty Seahawks fan. I'll be a salty Seahawks fan, but who knows?
All right, let's
You know,
let's
Tampa
finish
Bay.
off with the Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. What a game, man! What a game.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I don't know about the game. Interesting wise, is kind of a shock the way it turned out.
yeah, definitely. Well,
I mean,
absolutely.
the
I mean,
Bears
who
maybe
predicted
not.
that? Everyone was already giving the Cleveland's easy outs. They're like, they don't have a coach. They got five guys on COVID protocol. They got a couple injuries here and there. Denzel Ward didn't play, and everyone was already like, yeah, they're done. They're not going to win. And then, I think that kind of translated to what I said is that they didn't have any pressure. And the Steelers have all the pressure now. Now the Steelers are playing against the Browns, who have nothing to lose. They don't even have their head coach. They have all the excuses in the world. So now the Steelers are like, oh damn, if we lose this, we're done. And look what happened. It looked like the pressure got to him, man. Ben looked terrible.
Yeah,
Mike Pouncey snapping the ball over the head. Reminiscent of the Seahawks versus the Broncos. And it's just
yeah, definitely. Super
they
Bowl
got their
preview.
ass whooped, and I'm honestly cheering for Cleveland now. Cheering for Cleveland now after Chase Claypool comes on. It's like they're gonna get
Claypool.
clapped. I'm like, man,
I love Chase Claypool.
sit down,
But
sit down.
Chase Claypool need to get a smacking from Mike Tomlin.
So tell me what you
Uh,
thought about that game.
my thoughts, I was, I mean, I don't know how much credit goes to the Browns. They obviously played well, worked hard, but the Steelers gotta be the worst team in the playoffs. I mean, how did they go 12-4? Like, they were terrible. They looked
Yeah,
terrible. They looked like the Seahawks going to the playoffs, and they
they
looked terrible in the playoffs.
they made it so that we weren't the worst. The Seahawks weren't the worst 12-4 team.
Yeah,
Thank
they were
God. Huh?
good, man. The Steelers are not good. You got to question how they even got this far. People start talking about them going undefeated. I mean, that's just unbelievable now, looking back in hindsight. The Steelers lost themselves that game. Baker played well enough. He didn't play. It wasn't a Baker win. It was a Baker management kind of game. And that's all they really
Oh,
need. I
I
mean,
don't know. Baker is elite. He looked pretty damn
it's good.
good in
Good.
that. He
I'm not trying to discredit Baker here. I'm just saying. I
you didn't
talked
have to do
about
too much. You didn't have to do too
going in
much.
the game. Yeah, I talked about going in the game thinking that the Steelers are going to move their ball, and Baker was going to need to win the game, win a game. He didn't have to win the game. I mean, he's 28-0. How many turnovers did they have? 5 or something? It was poor from the Steelers. A lot of bad giveaways. The fumble is just a perfect example of their season. It's just been terrible for the Steelers. And for the Browns, they got – I mean, this is insane. I mean, Cleveland is in the second round of the playoffs. What the heck? I mean, I never thought I'd say that, honestly.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean,
Uh,
hey,
and
Corvette, right? Corvette.
Corvette. Juju is
Hey,
trash. We hate Juju. We hate Chase.
but isn't that something else to think about? Like, just have some perspective, right? The Browns have been so bad for so long that making it to the second round of the playoffs is like, wow, the Browns are in the second round of the playoffs, man.
I know. I look at Seahawks.
Like, and
Look
then
at that.
then on the other hand, we have the Seahawks and the Seahawks fandom who are like, wow, the Seahawks just cannot get out of the second round of the playoffs, man. They just get to the playoffs every year and lose. I'm like, sometimes it's nice to step back and have some perspective. And I think that's something that, is important in life and especially in football when everything is about what happened last week, what happened the week before that, not what's happening over a long period of time. And that's where the results can be seen, and that's where you can really derive actual conclusions rather than just reactions.
Yeah. So, lots to take of it. Steelers are gonna have a tough schedule this year. You could easily see the Steelers. Ben's got to go, man. Ben's got to go. And for the Browns, a lot to look forward to. OBJ is an asset that they could move on, and clearly he's not probably the long term solution. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Rashard Higgins have done well stepping in. So the Browns got a lot to look forward to, and honestly, they're the most exciting team to watch. Most exciting team to root for. Actually, they're the biggest underdog left in the playoffs, and they got the biggest baddie. They got the defending champs. So I'd love to see that matchup. We'll talk about it later, of course. The Browns, a lot to look forward to in the franchise. Pretty exciting as a Browns fan. How much of those are real.
Hey, go Browns, go Browns, go Browns.
Yeah, a lot of progressive commercials from Baker Mayfield might be getting Browns fans more than actual Browns football. But
I mean, is Baker Mayfield the best? Is Baker Mayfield the best actor?
He is, and I don't know. Aaron Rodgers was pretty good over the years, but
I like Aaron Rodgers, but he does have like a little bit of a. I think Baker sells it a little bit more than Aaron Rodgers, but that's just my take.
As football players go, he's up there. I don't know about as athletes is an older talk, but
and they just make Patrick Mahomes look so dumb on the commercials, man.
He looks garbage. Him and shout out Jackson Mahomes in the barbershop commercial. Patrick and Jackson.
That was funny, actually.
He's just lazy, the Beats commercials. He's just Patrick Mahomes facing the NFL. I'd rather watch Tom Brady. I don't know.
I like Bill Belichick in those commercials.
Yeah, Subway commercials. Shout out Bill Belichick. Pretty good in the Subway commercials. Shocking to see him. Clearly, he was taking an off year. I don't know. Never would have seen that during Mid Dynasty, but I guess now that he's got Cam Newton, he's learning some flavor.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, a lot of interesting things to talk about. A lot of great commercials from Baker Mayfield. One of his strengths for sure. As a back.
All right. So, anything else you want to talk about? Maybe we got some questions in the chat we can answer real quick. If not, yeah, just to recap, I think upcoming. We're gonna talk a little bit later this week about the playoff matchups, what we kind of think, who's gonna take the cake. That'll be something coming up, and then obviously we'll do a little Seahawks offseason video before there's kind of a lull between the playoffs and the actual offseason. But yeah, any questions?
Later this week too.
What's up? Yeah, we'll discuss the playoffs. We'll discuss the
more on the reflecting on the season, other parts, rookies. Total individual impact for teams later. And we can also obviously dive in.
I think I'll have some more limericks prepared. Maybe we'll bring on a guest to discuss the playoffs. I don't know, man. We're going to spice it up, though. We're going to spice it up.
We'll spice it up for sure. Definitely some exciting content to come from Big Dog Little Dog.
Big Dog. All right, so it doesn't look like anyone's going to ask any questions. So you want to say anything before we head out here? Huh?
I think we get here. I think we've done well. I think disappointing week in total, but we'll bounce back. Got a lot to look forward to as a Seahawks fan. Got a lot of good playoff matchups to come. Still going to be a good NFL season to watch to the end. Hopefully the Seahawks are part of it next year, and we'll maybe a 17-game season too. Something we'll talk about in the offseason, I'm sure. So yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah. So one question came in late. How does momentum affect the team? Yeah, we'll bring someone on to answer that question. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you can't really quantify what momentum does to a team. So maybe FBM, maybe you can drop us what you think momentum does to a team.
Yeah, I think maybe more clarification could be like momentum in a game. We're talking about momentum for the Seahawks, like as a season momentum or playoff experience, kind of like the Browns momentum rolling downhill. There's a lot of momentum. You gotta be more specific, but yeah, we'll definitely talk about momentum. I think it's an interesting topic in analysis right now. They're saying, momentum doesn't exist in football. That as an athlete is hard to imagine, But
yeah,
we'll talk.
And what's with the big blatant disrespect towards Lamar from Big Dog? Well, you know what? Maybe we should bring Lamar on the show, and maybe me and him can iron out our differences.
That would be a segment for sure.
I think Lamar has all the capability in the world. I think he'll keep learning. I think he is a great prospect.
There's some low intelligence out of Lamar, I've heard.
But
stuff.
We'll address that. We'll see. Let's see what happens this week. We'll see. We'll see. Uh,
Yeah.
I will talk about momentum later. So anyway, that's all. That's all we got today. Big dog, little dog. Thanks for
Yeah.
watching. Drop some S in the chat. We'll see you guys later.